Oh, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So I'm actually in sunny Brisbane today. So get out of Cairns for a bit. It's actually a lot of these sessions are obviously pre-recorded leading up to Movember, and it's actually the pre-launch for Movember in Brisbane tonight. So I'm looking forward to catching up with some friends who I haven't seen for a year. A lot of fellow my bros, my sisters out there who we can have a chat with and talk everything about Movember. I've actually got the opportunity today to have a little chat with Michael Healy, who's one of the local politicians in Cairns, Labor politician. So, Michael, I do appreciate your time this afternoon. I know you are a busy man, so I thought I'll catch you while I can and just grab you and we'll just have a chat about Movember and men's health. And obviously, a lot of the conversations I've been having around men's health at the moment, it's from a very broad range of people, men, women, old, young, gay, straight, bi, whatever the case may be. So I'm kind of interested, in, not from a politician side of things, but more from a father to a father, talking about men's health, but also about women's health. So I've got two boys. You've got a boy and a girl. So I'll be interested to get your perspective on how you deal with men's health when it comes to kids, for example. So I know what I do. Like, my boys are pretty open and honest about their emotions and what they're feeling. And I'm very open and honest about what I deal with and what I've dealt with in the past. Now, I've had a psychologist for the past 7 years. I'm happy to let people know about that and any experiences that I may have encountered in my time. So I'm kind of interested from father to a father, and I'll probably say kind of roughly the same age bracket that we're in, about what's you've experienced in your lifetime.
Well, Ben, I just want to begin by saying thanks very much for the opportunity to have a chat, mate. It's good, and if you're in Brisbane and it's nice, it's a little bit cloudy here today, but it's never cold. It's beautiful. So
No, that's it.
it's and we look forward to welcoming you home, mate. It's ironic because this morning I went to my doctor for my annual checkup. I'm 60. I'll be 61 in August.
All right. So I will stop you there for a moment. So I thought all right, I'm a little bit younger than you. That's okay. That's all right. So that's okay.
Oh well, I'm feeling even better. If you thought I was younger, so we should talk more often. I sort of, I think when we talk about health, for me, I think it's always important to go back and look at where people came from. And I grew up in Sydney. My father he never drank, he never smoked. He was a fitness fanatic. We grew up. My elder brother had a bronchial complaint. My younger brother, was an asthmatic. And so we were all thrown into the swimming pool literally from 6 months of age. There was a guy down there. His name was Forbes Carlisle. He was a famous coach. So we started in tadpoles and we basically swam. So we were super fit, very competitive. My younger brother, and then went off to good schools and rowing and rugby. And younger brother played Australian schoolboys. I was very competitive in swimming, surf, life saving. So, and I think, when you're talking about men's health, I think it helps to be able to look back on where we've all come from. And I accept, and I'm well and truly aware that not everybody would have had a background like mine. And when I'm talking, when we're having our chat, Ben, for me, health's big. So as a young bloke, I probably drank too much. I used to smoke back in the day. I used to inhale things which were probably inappropriate, as you do as a young bloke. And
Yeah.
I'm very conscious of that these days. So for me, it's about, regular exercise, I play a bit of tennis. I do a lot of walking. I do a lot of swimming when I can. It's just having that regular exercise. So today I go and see my doctor this morning. So I get my checkup and all those things, and around 60. So around about 50, I started getting a little bit more frequent in my checkups. And now I'm 60 and 61. I do it a lot more and just a little bit more conscious. It's probably a bit late, but a little more conscious of what I eat and, and the exercise I do. With the young kids, you're right. It's interesting because as a politician, you get a lot of information that a lot of people probably wouldn't get in the community. And I know, for example, that we've had it's been an issue in the schools, and I know it's been with juveniles, but we've had a significant issue when it comes to sexually transmitted diseases around Cairns.
Yeah.
So with my young son, that's a discussion that I have with him, and I think initially he found it a little awkward, but I said, look, this is something you're going to need to be aware of, and this is
That's
something,
it.
and we have those discussions. And so, and look, he was, once that initial speed bump, he was pretty good with it. And for me, I
Mm-hmm.
use a bit of humor, and then we sort of grew, and every now and then he'll come back and he'll say, he's not an infant, he's 17, but he gets it.
Yeah.
And he makes it easy. My wife about 12 years ago was diagnosed with leukemia.
Sorry to hear
Um,
that.
yeah, and look, she's super fit. Never been a drinker, never been a smoker or anything like that. So, being aware, I think it's the responsibility we have as human beings to our own body. We put it in the third person that we've got to look after ourselves, apart from those around us and our loved ones, and help everyone that we can. And I think this discussion, as you say, I did Movember before I got into politics. I was in the tourism industry, and we did it because I knew people and I knew men back then,
Yeah.
and too many that were having health issues. And even talking to my doctor this morning, we both were talking about a friend who recently passed, and it's just I think it becomes more important as you get older, and talking about it is so important. And men, we're impressively hopeless
Yeah, that's
at
it.
getting
Yeah.
things done. This is what so many doctors will tell you that.
You've touched on a few topics there that I want to go back and just revisit. And that first one is obviously about men not being open about their emotions and their feelings and stuff like that. And the amount of people that I've spoken to over the last few weeks, it's been very therapeutic for myself, but it's also making me aware of my own mental health and how much emotion and support that I can take from these conversations. And a lot of those conversations are coming around, especially, and every female that I've spoken to has touched on it. Men are pretty shit when it comes to expressing how they're feeling. And I was talking to a gentleman the other day who is very well known within the hospital community, the Hinterland Cancer Hospital community, and he's 80 plus. He gets his regular checkups, bloods, the whole kit and caboodle, prostate, whatever the case is, bowel, making sure everything's okay. But then he's looking at obviously the bigger picture when it comes to the mental health side of things for elder Australians, so elder gentlemen. It's like, what are you doing with your life after you retire, for example? Instead of just sitting around at home, just not doing anything, how
Right.
about you get out and do something within the community? Volunteer a couple of hours a day or a couple of hours a week just to get out of the house and engage with people.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely a focus that a lot of older Australians don't take into consideration. So, and before I forget, obviously, what we're talking about today, we are not professionals in the field. We're just going by our own experiences and offering advice on what we've heard. And hopefully someone can take ownership of that and take a little bit on board and go, okay, this is what I need to do with myself. And I know that conversation I was having the other day, it really hit the nail on the head about, it's kind of got a snowball effect, looking after yourself physically has that effect emotionally as well. If you're looking after yourself physically, emotionally, you're going to be in a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Ben, I think, look, and it hasn't been because I was talking to you today, but after my checkup this morning, I did an inspection of the Royal Flying Doctor Service out there at Cairns Airport and found myself once again talking to practitioners, and mental health in regional and particularly in remote communities is a significant issue. So you've touched on that point. When I'm at an age now where I've got quite a few mates that are retiring, and both regardless of male or female, I think I just find the word retiring, I don't use the word retiring really. I mean, you use it in the general sense so people understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I just see it as a significant shift in your priorities, and it's how you utilize your time. And we're living longer, but we're also seeing there's a lot more opportunities out there for people to engage. I mean, we are seeing a reduction in volunteers. So you look at the Cairns Historical Society, you look at some of the clubs that are around, the ability to, fundamentally, and you're right, we're not experts in this, but what I do know is that humans, we're like dogs, we're a pack animal,
Yeah.
and we need to survive together, and that has all the idiosyncrasies that go with pack animal mentality. But we
Yeah.
need to we need to have that worthwhile. And if we look at what our great grandfathers did when they got old, or even I remember as I got old, you'd go around to a mate's place and he'd have his grandparents would be living with them. These days, we've come up with an economic model that I think is pretty disappointing. But we farm them out and we put them in nursing homes, and that way we keep working. We've lost that really important connection, and I think
Yeah.
it's a point that I've discussed with a number of people. You sort of lose that. So, and I think there will always be purpose regardless of how old you are. It's your attitude is absolutely everything. And my father, God bless him, used to instill that in us. It's not what happens to you; it's how you react to it.
Yeah.
And having that attitude. But not everybody. I mean, I am the luckiest man in the world. I've got my health. I'm married to the most exquisite woman who is my soulmate. We've got kids. We've had our battles, but that's what life is. Life's full of those challenges. But I think from the mental health side, you know, we need routine. I think routine is so important. A healthy routine and a regular opportunity to vent, and not in the sense that you stand there and you rant at somebody, but where you can go for a walk and you can talk and you get into. I think we need to be building. As we get older, we need to be more resilient, but I think we need to be a little gentler with ourselves also. And I think our expectations are that you don't have to be wealthy to be retired.
Yeah.
You can be rich in knowledge, you can be rich in friends, and you can be. It's how you interact, and it's your attitude towards your community. And I think, and I know those things are so important because I talk to doctors in the mental health area, and they say to me these things are really important. And sometimes, we live in a world where we're swamped with information, but we're starved of intelligence. And I
Yeah,
think
that's true.
the more interaction we have with one another,
Yeah.
and from a retirement or a shift in priorities, I think the really important thing is you got to keep moving and you got to keep
Mm.
interacting.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's a really good point. It, obviously there's a generational shift between obviously when I grew up, when you grew up, when your parents grew up, how your children are growing up at the moment as well. There's always going to be that change of attitudes towards focusing on your mental health, but your physical health as well. I think there is a lot more knowledge around the mental health at the moment. Obviously, it's been a major talking point for a few years now. It never used to be, but obviously since COVID and stuff like that happened, it became more. It was out there for the community to understand what is actually going on. I was having a good chat with my eldest son, who's 22, and because I reached out to both my boys, 21 and 22, and said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Normally, I do something physical for Movember. I'll do a running challenge. I rode my bike down to Brisbane 2 years ago from Cairns. So I'm on push bike Cairns to Brisbane. So I did that in
Wow.
15
Wow.
days. So yeah,
How long,
I
Ben? How long did that take?
15 days.
Outstanding.
So it wasn't something. Well, I did plan on riding back. That was the whole point. But then things happened during the during the trip, and it's like you need to reevaluate some things. And we all know what the Bruce Highway's like. It is a very dangerous road
Yeah,
to
yeah,
drive on.
absolutely.
Imagine
Yep.
riding on it.
Yeah.
It was just an experience, definitely an experience. I will never do it again, but it was definitely an experience, a good experience. And that was through Movember 23, I do believe it was. So when I was talking to my boys, going, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm just kind of want to take it back to grassroots and have a conversation with people, kind of get an understanding of what they've experienced, whatever the case is, whatever the generation, the age, sex, whatever. and get an understanding about what they've gone through. Talking to my 22-year-old, thinking, right, this is going to go two different ways here. This is a father and son talking about mental health, or this is two adults talking about mental health, regardless of the the family tree, the lineage on that. So I'm thinking, okay, is he going to talk about things that I don't want to know about? Or, but it was a good conversation. It was, I've got no secrets with my children. We're very open about it. Getting an idea, because he studies at uni, like it is like, from his experience, the age group now, when it comes to mental health for early teens, mid-teens, is immense. It is massive. There's so many experiencing that mental health issues that they've experienced over the years.
Yeah.
But then the support's out there for them at that age. They're more open to reaching out and getting support because they understand what's going on. And when we look at that, and then we look at someone who's in their 70s, for example, who have grown up not experiencing that through their lifetime.
Yeah.
But then, it's like everyone says, harden up, toughen up, it's all in your head, deal with it, all that kind of shit.
Yep.
It's not a positive experience that they're taking from that. And it comes down, obviously, it just comes down to their upbringing as well. But having a kind of a broader understanding of what people are going through, I'm very open to everything. And what I'm teaching my children is when they're my age and they have their own children, I've got grandchildren, they know how to deal with any experiences which be coming up. I know when my boys were in school, and I'm not sure what it is like at the moment with the education, but from a general conversation we've had a couple of people, there's not really much focus on mental health at the moment within schools. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you can confirm or elaborate a little bit on that. I'm not sure. But
Yep.
they've been out of school for like 5 years now anyway. But I know when I grew up in school, there was no support. Even when I was in the military for almost 10 years, there was still that stigma behind mental health then. And obviously, I'm talking about 30 years ago. So there is obviously, hopefully there's a change for the better, but I'm not sure if you've experienced anything with your own children within the education department. And this is not a reflection on the education department. Each school is different, and I'm sure each school would have their own policies and procedures.
Totally. And look, I mean, the statistics would tell me that, and I'm happy to share that there is kids these days are a lot more aware of mental health issues than certainly when I was growing up, or you were growing up, or somebody in their 70s who were told to, well, toughen up, sweetie, and move on.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it was back then. But these days, look, the news, good news never sells a paper, but there are a lot of very positive stories out there in a range of areas. And the education system, as challenged as it may seem when you read the papers and you watch the news at night, there are an enormous amount of positive stories that are out there. And I think children and juveniles and young adults these days are well and truly more aware of the opportunities and the infrastructure that is available to them in the mental health issue. Because when I was growing up, if your mental health, it was a sign of weakness or something. I was just on a side note. I've been reading. I've been doing a bit of travelling a bit lately, and I was reading about I was in Brussels at the EPER at the Menin Gate, where tens of thousands of Australian men and some women were killed in the First World War. Some of these, there was some young men, believe it or not, English, and I think there were some New Zealanders, none Australians, because after the Boer War, you couldn't shoot in Australia, and you had to get approval from the Governor General of Australia. And during the First World War, the Governor General of Australia, every time they said, we found, Private Healy ducked off for 3 days. Well, as a sign, we're going to shoot him at dawn. every time he got that, he wrote back and said, no, we'll make it life in prison. And inevitably, they all got out. But
Yeah.
there was one tragic story of a young man who was 18 years of age, found out that his brother had been killed, and he went missing for 3 days. And he ended up meeting another bloke who had shell shock and was shaking
Mm.
incessantly. Both of them were found guilty of negligence of duty,
Yeah.
and they were shot. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, and I remember telling my wife this story, and she was really bothered, as it bothered me when I read it. So,
Yeah.
if you look at the way things were a long time ago and where we are now we know that we live in a world where there's a lot of pressure on people. It's a very, very different world. First world
It
economy.
is.
I think we'll find out that phones phones are going to be bad news, and we can see that. They're the biggest fights I have with my kids. They're the biggest fights you see people. I mean, you've got a federal government now trying to deal with access to the data and access to those that information. It's scary, and I think the importance of people knowing that there is support out there for mental health, or whether it be just for your physical as we get older. But the mental health thing is so important, Ben, in those early days, to know it's not a weakness, to know, look, but shit happens and we're here to help you. So don't be afraid. Let's do what we can. It is such a vitally important message.
A very, very, very important message. Now, just on the flip side, women's support. Now, obviously, I do a lot of stuff for breast cancer awareness as well. For me, when it comes to Movember, there's always not just the Mo Bros, there's the Mo Sisters out there. So, obviously, for me, with the pink that I portray in my daily life, pink hair, pink moustache, I got a pink case for my phone, I got a pink watch band for my watch. It's me giving support to those that have helped me. Now, obviously, it's when we're coming talking about mental health, it's just not men's health as well, and especially with Movember. We've
Correct.
got my sisters out there that support us. Now, I've had thousands of women support me over the years, and I've loved every single one of you. I've probably disliked a couple, but it's the way it is. But it's that's life.
Yeah.
But they've always been supportive of what I've done, and it's just giving that support out there, especially when it comes to breast cancer awareness. I've had family, friends who have suffered from that. And it's just not breast cancer, but it's something which I can portray out there in the community, because obviously people look at me, they either do a couple of things. They just stare, gawk at me, not knowing what to say. They laugh, or they actually come up and talk to me and have a conversation. And it's those conversations with people that really make an impact, whether they're young or old. So I had an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old girl come up to me at Cairns Central late May and wanted to talk about the pink. Now, she wasn't really, it wasn't conversation really focusing on the health side of things, because she's probably a little bit too young to understand that. But
Yeah.
it's the impact that I'm giving back to her when she sees someone who's not afraid to show pink, that's making an impact. And that's having that support there from our ladies is vitally important as well.
Yeah, look, I do want to keep the politics out of it, but I just feel impelled to make one comment, and that was that we had prior to the last election, we had a very, very strong focus on women's health, and we put a number of strategies in place, because in some areas it has been a forgotten, it's been a taboo topic,
Yeah.
and I think once again, I mean, some of the strongest and most impressive people in my life have been women by a country mile. And when we look at the support and what's available for women out there, the biggest room in the area there is the room for improvement, because I just tend to think that women are in tune with their bodies.
Mm.
And for men, I think we're fairly nonchalant about it. I think women, their attention to detail, I think they think differently, and I think in a more positive and a constructive way. but ensuring that they have that. I don't, you see, for us, for men, it's about, we don't talk about it and we keep it till it's too late. And,
Yeah.
doctors are saying, wow, well, if we come in early or if you're aware of it. Whereas women, they talk about these things. And this is where this is just one of the many areas where they are so more impressive. But the disappointing thing was sometimes that the infrastructure certainly wasn't available. And that's where we need to make improvements. So I'll move away from the political side, but I want to acknowledge that point, Ben, because I think it is important. That is, we need to be investing more in our women's health, specifically for women, particularly in regional areas. So I'll push that to the side. But as a father, as I said, my 12 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with leukemia, and that was obviously that was a horrendously scary time, but it was an enormously challenging time. And we got to see the best and worst of things. But I think also for younger women these days, making sure that they're aware that there is sufficient support out there for them and recognising it. I mean, simple things like the most basic things, like Queensland have only just acknowledged the fact that we will now have in schools free sanitary pads for young women. I mean, go figure. Why has it taken us so long? I mean, we need to. I actually think it's taken us so long because we haven't had women in politics, and we're getting a lot more women in politics. And I think that's a really, really important and a good thing. So they're the sorts of things that you thought, well, we should have done those things a long time ago. So
my wife is very heavily involved in the Share the Dignity campaign as well.
Great talk.
So and I'm actually I want to say that they've got a men's that they're trying to incorporate men in more involved in that as well. And I actually got an email from just the other day. Let me just have a quick look. It's what are they called? Yeah, Bro on the Know. That's it. Bro on the Know. So they're reaching out to more men to kind of understand what women go through when it comes to periods and stuff like that, which we may not be. And it's an amazing initiative. I'm really proud of her for what she does within that, and I support her with those campaigns as much as she puts me with mine. When I rode down in Brisbane, she was there supporting me all the way, and I honestly I couldn't have done it without her. So it's thanks to those women. So I'm just getting a little bit emotional there. It's just
that's natural, mate. That's a good
thing.
That's
it. Yeah, that's it. And I'll wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm very open and honest about what I do and what I try and do within the community. I'm one person trying to make a difference, not in my own life, but in somebody else's as well. If somebody sees me on the side of the street, sees the pink, if all it takes is for them to go, oh shit, okay, if it's for breast cancer or whatever, even if I speak to them, if they get themselves checked up, then I know I've done something. So that's important for me. I know with tonight, obviously with the Movember pre-launch, there's going to be a lot of our Mo sisters there as well. So it's a gathering of all the Mo bros, the Mo sisters in the area to support each other, to bring on what's going to be an amazing campaign. Obviously, this conversation is pre-recorded, obviously, so it will go out during November. But it's an opportunity to have a chat with yourself, and I do appreciate your time this afternoon, Michael. I really do. I know you're a busy man, and it's been hard to nail you down, but that's okay. We've managed to get there. It's all good. I really appreciate
it. It hasn't been intentional, my friend.
It's all good, mate. It's all good. I know we've got busy lives.
Yeah, but just on the point of you wearing your heart on your sleeve, look, I'm very much the same. Like I'm a politician now, but I've spent my entire life in sales and marketing, and I will not be a politician forever. It's a period in time, and you try to drive change. I really don't have time for the politics, but I'm more interested in doing what I can for our community and getting the best outcomes, and then you hand the baton on to the next girl or the next boy or the next person who's going to take on this responsibility. But what you do and what so many others are doing out there in the broader community, it does help. It lets people know that whether it's mental health or whether it's prostrate or whether it's breast cancer or whether it's any of the ailments that we have in our complex and busy and pressured lives, that we need to talk about them. And I think there are more people on this planet than have ever died throughout history. There's over 8 billion of us. So we've got to learn to get on. We've got to be able to help one another. We've got to avoid all of those things that certain leaders are trying to division and things like that, because that's not going to work. But people like you and what you do, and the people that have come up with Movember, and people have come up with so many fantastic aid and manner in which people can hook in and get involved in these things. I mean, I remember some years back, my daughter was going to school with a young boy. He was 12, 14 years of age. He was sick, and I remember going down to visit him in the hospital in Brisbane. And I just thought, wow, if you're having a bad day, go into the children's hospital, and just have a look around. Because for me, it's so simple. It's almost complicated. You just do the right thing, do your best, and that was painful. That was really painful.
I bet. I remember my youngest son broke his leg probably about 5 days before Christmas. This was, I can't remember how old he was. It was a long time ago. He was 12 maybe, and he had a full leg cast, whole kick-a-boodle, full leg.
Yeah, wow, yeah,
yeah, and even then, just before Christmas, I remember when he went in for an X-ray, and my eldest son was with me as well, and it got to a point when I just broke down. Just seeing your children like that, and it might not sound like a lot from a broken leg, but it was a pretty big. It was a pretty big break. It was a pretty big break, and I think the whole emotion just got a hold of me, and I just broke down. And God bless my eldest son as well. He was there to support his dad. He gave me a hug. He said, "It's okay, Dad." And you know what, having that support there from your family, from your children, mate, you can't ask for anything else than that. It's what you're instilling on your own children, which is going to make our future better for them and for us. So,
and that's the key. I think open communication, being compassionate and being understanding. I see compassion as a strength. These are things that, in this modern day and age, sometimes people see them as weaknesses, but
that's it.
It is so vitally important. And you're right, Ben. These are examples that we leave for, or we present, because kids watch you and think, yeah, okay, that's a good way of dealing with it. So, I think, mate, I think you're doing a great job, and I just want to say thanks. I get a bit emotional when I talk about that, because the outcome wasn't good, but I just remember it was horrendous, and I remember thinking, wow, we're not here for a long time, so you just do what you can. But mate, you're doing a great job, and I just want to say good luck tonight, and I hope it goes well. And look, I'd be keen to have a chat again whenever that suits.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate your time. I know you're busy, so I do appreciate your time. But absolutely, I want to catch up with some other people that I've already spoken to, have a bit of another chat with them, and I'll definitely have you on the cards if you're free. We'll lock in a time, mate.
Absolutely, Ben. Thanks very much, and all the best to your listeners, mate. Thanks again.
All right, thanks, Michael. Have a good afternoon. All right, thanks again.
G'day, mate. Bye.
Thanks, mate. Bye now.